Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to our Evolve with Heather and Paul show. We are super excited to be doing this Facebook Live show weekly on Mondays. And I don't know right now if we're streaming live from my homepage or from my fan page. So we're still working out some of the technology. But
We'll get this figured out.
You know what? We're going to work it out.
Oh, no, it's working.
Oh, good. It's working. All right. So one of the things that I wanted to share with you, well, we're doing this session today on, are you an ask for help person? So this is all around asking for help. And the reason we've chosen that topic is we tend to search for topics that are either really relevant to us or showing up in our worlds, or sometimes we hear them from clients. But hopefully many of you will relate to this topic and can share your thoughts on it as well.
I know I totally related to this, especially as we started talking about this particular topic. And I think probably for the majority of guys out there, asking for help is not something that comes naturally.
Well, I don't know if it's a guy-girl thing, because I would say for the majority of women out there, we maybe tend to give more help than ask for help. So if you're someone who can relate to this, if you would prefer to give help than to ask for help, hit your like button so we know that you actually relate with that one.
Yeah, and let us know where you're listening from. So, we want to know if you are, we have a lot of people from Chicago or all around the country or even all around the world.
All right. So, I want to share a story. Just this morning, Paul asked for help, and this is really cute. So, yesterday, we just finished our beach landscaping. And what that is just like a tiny little corner of our yard. We filled in sand, and we made our own virtual beach in a corner of our yard. Well, our neighbors reminded us yesterday that today is mulch day in our neighborhood. So this is where they come in like a storm and just mulch everything. And these guys are moving fast. So the neighbors said, hey, just be careful that you don't get your new beach mulched. And they were having a really good laugh about it. So Paul decides to take it on his own. And here's what I hear this morning as I'm getting ready. I hear him practicing Spanish. I'm like, what are you doing? Yeah. So in the other room, I hear him working on something, and he's saying it over and over again. So why don't you just share, what exactly did you do this morning?
Well, about 15 years ago, Heather and I did a Spanish immersion program in Spain. And,
money well spent.
Yeah, I really didn't learn that much. But anyhow, I decided, well, this is a perfect opportunity to really be able to use my Spanish and really make a point that, like, please, we just built this beach, don't cover it up with mulch. So I'm practicing. I find out what the word is on Google for sand, and it's arena, right?
Yep,
arena. And so I'm like, arena. And so I go out there, and I go talk to the guy, and I walk up, and I go, ¿Cómo estás? And he says, Buenos dias. And I said, no mulch in arena, por favor. And he goes, sure, no problem, sir.
So Paul asked for help, and he got it. That was a great laugh that we got to have this morning. And again, as I said, money well spent on that 6 months. Yeah. 6 months in Spain. You hear how fluent he is. Okay, so let's.
Hey, I tried though.
You did try. You did try. You know what? I appreciate it. So let's talk about why we're talking about this are you an ask for help person? Paul and I both strongly believe that if you're not asking for help when you need it, you are severely limiting your success in business. And as we both said when we started this program, we both struggle with this. So if you're someone who also struggles with this, or asking for help isn't just very natural for you, we've done a lot of work. We've really looked at our own situations and why both of us fail to ask for help. And we'd like to hear from you as well as you start to think about this and find out for yourself. So the first thing that we want to just share is that if you're not asking for help, you are not only limiting your success in business, you're potentially also limiting your ability to connect with other people, and therefore become the type of person who actually accepts help, and that's really a gift to give to someone else. So I'm going to share my personal experience with asking for help and why I think I was really hesitant to ask for help early on, and I just carried that through as a bad habit. And I think it goes back to my law firm days, where when I was first practicing law, I was surrounded by a bunch of really, really smart people, and I was feeling a little bit of the imposter syndrome. Have you guys ever heard of the imposter syndrome? Click the like button if you know what I'm talking about. Essentially, with this imposter syndrome, you feel like, okay.
Nobody's going to click that.
No one's going to click that. Well,
Nobody wants to.
Okay, so here's what's interesting. I only heard about the imposter syndrome for the first time, like within the last 6 months, and yet I've had it for years. So it's a real thing. If you don't know what I'm talking about after this show, Google it and read a little bit about it. It's fascinating. But essentially, what it's all about is
we are imposter Facebook Live hosts, right?
No, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm talking about the imposter syndrome. It's when you study and you work really hard at something and you get good at something, but you still don't feel good enough. You feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know enough, or I'm not worthy enough to be an expert in this area. And what happens is you have this facade like, okay, I can do this, and you're showing everybody that you're this expert, but inside you really don't feel like you know as much as you need to know. So when I was first practicing law in my firm in Chicago, I was practicing technology law. Okay, so the reality was that was brand new for me. I really didn't know, but I had to keep up this facade like, oh, you made a great hire here, and I'm going to learn everything I need to know. So me asking for help, for me, it felt like a sign of weakness. It felt like I was showing them that I didn't know and that I wasn't smart enough, and that, it was just really, it was very vulnerable, and I didn't want to be vulnerable in that time in my world because I didn't want them to think that they had made a mistake hiring me.
Right.
So I really struggled with this feeling like asking for help was a sign of weakness rather than the sign of strength that I know that it truly is now.
And I think there's probably a lot of professionals out there, especially if you've done a ton of schooling and you are supposed to have the answers, especially being an attorney. Like, that's what you're paid to do.
An attorney, a financial advisor,
right.
An accountant, anybody.
You can't look like an imposter to somebody, right? Because why would they want to work with you? But the fact of the matter is, most of us can at sometimes feel like that because we just don't know the answers, and sometimes not asking for help because of that. So that's kind of
so for me that was an issue. That was a super big issue, and I did not ask for help for a long time. I would literally just stress myself out and struggle and try to figure it out for myself. What about for you? Because yours is a little distinct from mine.
Well, as I said, for me, I mean, as I prepared for this topic, it really became aware to me how little I ask for help and how much I truly think it's made an impact on my life as far as both personally and professionally. I think I've limited myself in so many ways because I've wanted to figure things out on my own. It's sort of like a badge of honor for me to be able to do that. And I just found myself, for example, doing it just recently. We were preparing and promoting a Facebook, through Facebook Live for our Florida Speakers Association. And I wanted to figure out how to create the event on Facebook and then be able to boost that out to people. And so I started working on it, and the event had already been created, so I had to go in and edit it, and I didn't know how to do it. And so I'm looking up on YouTube, and I think YouTube is a great place. I mean, I think all of us have gone there for one time or another to be able to find out something that we didn't know. And usually that's a quick fix. And maybe that's part of it too, is I feel like everything is online anymore. I don't really need that interaction with a person. And so I'm on there and I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, but how much time do you waste?
Well, I know. Well, that's well, true. But I mean, it was the time that it took me. So I found after about an hour of working on this particular event, trying to figure out how to boost it and do all the things I needed to do, I started, the next phase of that is that obviously the productivity is down. And then the last phase, the third, is just being absolutely frustrated and just pissed off at myself for just doing this. And at a certain point, Heather could hear me upstairs being frustrated. And
yeah, so that's how frustrated he was. I could hear him, and his office is upstairs. So yeah, I knew that he was trying to work.
Well, then what did you say?
I said, well, Paul, what about, we have an employee who actually helps to manage all of our social media. Is there any reason that you don't just pick up the phone and call her and ask her about boosting this event? Because it was an event outside of our business. It was for the Speakers Association. And so he was thinking that he didn't want to use our employee and bother her. So he's like, oh, this should be easy, right? Yeah,
I mean, I did want to kind of figure it out on my own, but then when I realized it was taking too long, so I probably wasted a good hour trying to figure it out. And that just frustrated me so much too. So that's one of the things, is just being able to quickly identify, for me and for you, is to quickly identify if you're somebody that doesn't ask for help. If you know you're going down that path and you're starting to research something and you cannot find the answer quickly, immediately start thinking about who is it that has some expertise in this area that can help me. So that's probably number one. And that's one of the things that I just learned from that. And also just in the analysis of going through preparing for this topic. The other one for me, and it's huge as I started thinking about how this impacts me, is the social debt. So social debt. So if you don't know what that means, the social debt of asking a question. So if I ask you a question and for some help, and then because of the law of reciprocity, I owe you something if you help me and you answer the question or you help me get through a particular challenge that I'm having.
Which is really just part of the human condition. I mean, we are all totally conditioned by this law of reciprocity. When we ask for help, we then feel the need, insatiable need, to then give help back.
Yeah, and for me, being in social debt to somebody, for whatever reason, is really hard. It's really hard for me to know that I owe somebody for something. And as I prepared for this, I really butted up against, why am I so resistant for asking people for help? And those are really the two reasons that came up for me.
Yeah.
Did you have any more?
No, I'm still sticking with my main reason, which is that it really made me feel uncomfortable because it was being vulnerable in asking for help. I thought it was a sign of weakness. I mean, that's just what I attached it to. I know logically that's not right, but emotionally that's how it felt for me. So, and I just carried that through. So I think what we want to do is let's talk about.
I think there's one caveat to this whole asking for help. The one caveat is never ask somebody to help you to move if you're over 35 years old.
Yeah, so we're going to encourage you to ask for help unless it's moving. Then you should hire someone.
Yeah. That one.
Because in general, human beings want to help. So I want you to think about this right now. If you're someone who enjoys helping others, hit your like button so that we know that you like.
Come on, let me know that you are out there.
We know that most people really enjoy helping others. And think about that. If people enjoy giving help, you know you enjoy helping someone. If one of your friends, if one of your family members, one of your coworkers comes to you and needs help, it actually feels good that someone's come to you. You feel valued, you feel respected, and that someone is actually coming to you because they want your counsel. I mean, it really does feel good, and it feels great when you're actually able to help them solve whatever their issue is.
Yeah.
And yet we cut people off from that ability to help us all the time. What does that do for someone? Now, sometimes you know you need help. Someone else identifies the fact that you need help, but you're completely unwilling to ask. And so people just volunteer and they offer, hey, can I help you? I see you're struggling. And then you still say no, which is like blocking their joy. It's blocking their ability to be of service to you and to get that feeling, right, of what it feels like to be able to help someone.
Got it. So let's wrap this up with the 3 solutions.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah, go.
But you want?
Yeah, go. It was your idea.
So, well, I was hoping that you knew that.
Okay.
So you were going to talk about the Dale Carnegie, the How to Stop Worrying, and so go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So that would be the first way that you want to make sure to ask for help is be really clear and specific on what kind of help that you need. Okay. So one of the challenges about asking for help is, do you actually really know what to ask someone for? I mean, I actually remember I was part of a mastermind group out in Texas, which was just absolutely phenomenal. And if you guys weren't so far away, I'd still be part of you today, but I still feel like I'm part of you in my heart. So I'm part of this amazing mastermind group in Dallas with some of the most unbelievable minds you can imagine. And all of a sudden, our leader, Kyle, goes, okay, now it's time to just go around the room and just share what is something that this group can help you with. And I remember sitting there and like, oh my gosh, I hadn't even thought about that. Well, what's wrong with me? It's a mastermind group. Like the whole purpose you get together with this group is you share, here's what I need, and then everyone else shares, here's what I need for my business. Like, that is the purpose of a mastermind, to really get feedback. And I found myself showing up there, and I was doing a little bit of a presentation at the time, so I was more focused on what I was giving versus what I was getting. And so I did not clearly enough define where these people, these amazing minds, could help me in my business. And I think about how much I missed out on because I didn't sit down and really formulate, where do I need help specifically? How can they help me? So one of the ways I think that you can do this for yourself in business or even in life, I mean, this spans across the board, is to sit down and do a self-assessment about where you need help. And a great way to start off is to maybe just like do on a scale from 1 to 10, how stressed out am I right now? On a scale from 1 to 10, if 10 is the highest and 1 is the lowest, where are you on your stress meter? The reason I say that is if your stress meter is anywhere over a 5, then you've got something going on right now, probably a problem or challenge or an opportunity that you haven't fully solved. Yeah. So figure out where you are currently, and then let's say that you're at a 7. Now ask yourself, why? Why am I at a 7 in stress? And see if you can identify what the problem, challenge, or opportunity is. Once you get there, don't just stop surface level. Like, let's just say I'm at a 7 right now in my stress because I've got this huge project going on. Well, is it really the huge project, or is it something about the project? Ask why, until you get to the bottom. Usually 5 whys will do it. And then when you get to the bottom of that, really formulate, okay, who, as Paul said, who is the best person who can help you? And then second, what specifically will you ask them for in terms of help? And sometimes you just need someone to bounce something off of. You just need someone to be a great listener, in which case, please ask them in advance, hey, I'd love to talk to you about something. Would you just be a sounding board for me and let me talk this through? Because remember, when you go to someone for help, they typically want to give you what? What do they want to give you?
The answer.
Yeah, they want to give you the answer. They want to give you advice. They want to solve all your problems, and sometimes they want to solve them even more quickly than you've explained, right? So make sure that you tell somebody exactly what you need help with and how they can best help you.
Okay, got it. And so the second one is just simply be helping others first. And I think that's one of the biggest solutions for me is make myself more available to help people. The more I help people, the more people will be willing to help me, and then I won't have that social debt. I've already built up that reciprocity. It's a good thing.
Okay, so become a helper.
What's the third thing?
Number 3 is make sure you don't ever assume what people know or who they know. So sometimes we fail to ask for help because we're like, I don't see how this person would be able to help me. And I'm going to give an example that I thought was a really cool story. You zip it on the quick. This is a great story. So when we were living in Chicago back in the early 2000s, I was a wish granter for Make-A-Wish Foundation. And I had this young lady come to me, and she had a terminal illness, and her wish of all wishes was to go to Paris with her mother and her sister. You were there for me.
I was, totally.
Okay, so that's what she wanted, to go to Paris with her mom and her sister. And so as a wish granter, I get to sort of interview her and ask her all kinds of questions to build her perfect wish. And I'm asking her questions and questions and questions. And when I was digging deeper, I could tell there was something she wanted to do, but she wouldn't share it. I said, please share with me. If you could do anything in the city of Paris, what would you do? It would be your favorite thing. She said, well, my favorite thing is something we can't do, so I'm not even going to say it. And I said, no, nothing's off limits here. Put it out there, and if we can make your dream come true, that's what we want to do. So she said to me, well, I know it's something that can't be done, but I've always wanted to fly a hot air balloon, and to do that in the city of Paris would be just magnificent. And I literally
just that. Like, what a great idea.
It sounds like a great idea. I'd love to do that myself.
Yeah.
So what's just absolutely crazy, I think it's probably divine that this all showed up. I said, well, as crazy as this sounds, I actually happen to have just met somebody last summer who flies hot air balloons, and she lives in Paris. Crazy, random, like you can't even make that stuff up. So my friend Elisa had this good friend who flew for FedEx, and her hobby was flying hot air balloons, and she lived in Paris. She had a hot air balloon.
Shut the front door.
Shut the front door is right. So never assume. Now, this poor little girl, she probably thought it was a total setup because how can that even happen, right?
Right.
But never assume what people know or who they know, because you just never know. You've got to ask out loud when you want some help.
Absolutely. You never know.
All right. What else? Anything else you want to say?
I think that's it. I think
home?
we just want to finish it up. And we want to thank you so much for joining us on our Facebook Live, Evolve with Heather and Paul.
And we will see you again.
Well, and next week's topic is going to be, I know you wanted to talk just a
perfect. Yeah.
second about that.
Next week's topic is kind of like the perfect follow-up to this topic, which is don't be too quick to give advice. So we're going to be looking at the other side of when people ask for help, how to be a really, really great helper. Okay, so that's next week, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. And if you loved this, share it with others. And the way that you could help us, if we could ask, is to just engage with us and let us know what you think. And if you've got any topics that you want to hear about it,
yeah, we would love to hear
message.
For sure.
And let us know.
All right, cool. Well, you guys have a great week. And thank you so much for joining us. And we hope to see you again next week.
Thanks for joining in.
Take care. Bye.